Hi, my name is Brian Castillo, and today I'm going to be talking about parasocial relationships. And before I start this topic, I want to mention why this is sort of important to me. And that's because I'm someone who is both in the gaming community and watches streams and streams on the side for fun on Twitch. So I can see how easily it is to want escapism or to form parasocial relationships. And first, let me explain what a parasocial relationship is, since this isn't a new topic or field, it's only recently become a lot more popular and well known. Um, Basically, one parasocial relationship is a one-way relationship. If you think about it in biological terms, it would be like a parasite sucking on some sort of animal's blood and only them gaining. In this case, it would be one person giving all the social attention. Uh, and in the past, it was mainly TV personalities, but now it's mostly influencers. TV personalities still do form parasocial relationship with their viewers. For example, Oprah or a singer, maybe like Taylor Swift. But now it's mostly YouTubers, content creators, or influencers, such as the one example I gave, which was Ludwig. So why does this happen? So according to find psychologists, there one of the reasons was because it forms a relationship without the fear of rejection or without the fear of being negated for any reason. So this lets people feel a little bit more comfortable. And according to Michael G. Blight in the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, they also may do this for a need to fulfill some sort of social or individual need. Maybe the person that is in this relationship would want to have some sort of relationship in the first place, and they may not be getting it anywhere else. And some may also seek help through tough times. For example, the one I gave, Ludwig, he made a video titled "I'm Not Your Friend," in which he goes through parasocial relationships and he more through the influencer's perspective and talks about how oftentimes people will message him telling him that, "Oh, you saved me," or "Oh, you were there for me during X time." He explains that he was simply the tool that they used, and they could have used any other tool. They could have used Oprah, they could have used Taylor Swift, for example. And now, why am I talking about this in particular? Why is this more of an issue now? This has been an issue since about I saw a article talking about a study done in 1985. Well, one big reason is the pandemic. The pandemic has made many people feel more isolated, and pretty much if you look at numbers around all sort of like YouTube, and the example that I gave was Twitch. And if you don't know what Twitch is or live streaming, it's where people will go to do some sort of activity. Usually it's gaming. Sometimes it can be just chatting, for example, which encompasses baking. It can really just be any activity will be considered just chatting. And there's also a variety of other things on there as well. But Twitch is the main website where live streaming happens. And if you look at some of the statistics, for example, in 2019, before the pandemic, it was pretty much growing somewhat linear at 1.6 million. But as soon as the pandemic hit, it went to 2.12 million, nearly doubling the amount of people who are watching. And now it's at nearly 3 million people. So this really just goes to show how many people are starting to now not only form parasocial relationships but also just watch. And it's also kind of interesting because even in my own friend group, a lot of my friends who never watch Twitch or never barely have just heard of the website have all of a sudden just started talking about these different streamers that I have heard about before. And even I myself, who only had before gone onto the website to watch some sort of tournament, or now and a brief period in my time in my life, especially during the beginning of the pandemic, I was nearly watching it daily. And so I think that it shows that people have becoming more isolated and just really want some sort of social aspect now, and they're turning towards influencers. And technology has become more and more of our daily lives, really, since especially during the pandemic, when now most people are even staring at during the screen for their not only their jobs but also for entertainment, and people want some sort of, well, new relationship, new stimulant. You can't really go to school and maybe meet new people anymore really as easily, or you can't at office talk have office talk or whatever. It now only becomes the screen. So the people are looking for some sort of stimulant, and it can only really be found through the screen. And so the numbers show how many more people want this sort of relationship. So is it always bad? Well, according to Dr. David Blight, parasocial relationships aren't inherently a problem. And Ludwig, the one of the biggest streamers on Twitch, in an interview with Dr. K, who actually they talked about parasocial relationships, also agreed with this statement. Although they did mention that the problem with parasocial relationship is that it's inherently a one-way relationship, since Ludwig would get all these messages telling him things like, oh, I want to be your friends, or interviews and stuff like that, then he can't really reciprocate because there's be hundreds and thousands of messages on Twitter or whatever, and it can leave people with unrealistic relationship standards, since, well, you're only giving in that relationship and you don't really know how the other person would receive what you're giving. It can make people not really understand how relationship standards are worked, and especially this is a bigger problem through younger and younger audiences. And it can also do the opposite of making people feel with more friends or whatever. It can make them more isolated in the end, since if the parasocial relationship gets bad enough, maybe they won't want to hang out with their real life friends or want to do stuff with new people. They might just abandon all of that and just eventually just only solely focus on that parasocial relationship, a relationship that can never go anywhere, because at the end of the day, these influencers have hundreds of thousands of messages daily telling and they can't respond to all of these. So some of these solutions. So government wise, I don't think that there's much that they can do directly to face this issue, mainly because a lot of this issue is the individual and the influencer. But I do think that they should make schools talk more about mental health. It should be a topic more discussed and taught. For example, how to just different things about mental health, how to deal with different issues of that sort. But on a societal level, I think we should hold influencers a lot more accountable, since influencers are oftentimes can be part of the problem. For example, there was an influencer named Dream, who oftentimes would say things like, "Oh, I love you guys," but he would mean it sort of as, "Oh, someone loves a kitten, right? Like everyone would love a kitten," but often this was criticized because, well, not everyone would get that message and not everyone would understand that's what he means. A lot of people and a lot of his audience is a lot younger, so they may think that, oh, this influencer Dream personally cares about me, and this could very much lead to negative problems, like I said, about how it can make someone have unrealistic relationship standards, and it can make someone feel even more isolated. And in an individual level, we should check that if we do form a parasocial relationship, that we don't take it too far. For example, I mentioned myself that earlier in the pandemic, I was more watching Twitch every single day, and looking back on it, I was at the beginning of that parasocial relationship, out of that negative, where I didn't really abandon any of my friends for anything, but I do remember feeling, oh, this person's streaming right now, maybe I'd just go have it in the background or something while I hang out with my friends or something, like during Zoom. And I do think that as an individual, we should check that if we are forming a parasocial relationship, that we don't take it too far or make it too negative. So in conclusion, I think that parasocial relationships are something that, while isn't inherently bad, is something that should be talked more about, so that way people realize that if they are forming a parasocial relationship, that they don't take it too far, and that mental health should be something that should in general just be more discussed, really. And And I think that as an individual and on a societal level, we should be checking more on our influencers and making sure that they're held accountable for what they say, and make sure that they don't encourage parasocial relationships, because oftentimes influencers may do this unintentionally, and that it should be something that should be called out for. So I hope that you learned something about parasocial relationships and what exactly they are and why they can be an issue. And